Wholeness means to me being in a state of joy.
Wholeness means feeling complete, owning my authentic gifts.
Wholeness is really connected. Everything is connected to everything.
Wholeness is where we have access to all parts of ourselves.
Welcome to our summer shorts. We're so excited to have short podcasts that will just fit into whatever you're doing this summer. And Michelle and I both love movies. And so we decided to pick some of the movies that are meaningful to us. I don't know that any of these movies, well, Inside Out, that we're going to talk about later this month, might have won an award. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say, know that any of these have like won awards, but they're still meaningful to us. So the first one that we want to talk about is the newest one. It's called If. And there will be spoilers, I'm sure. There will be a spoiler, especially on this one.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but I was a little bit surprised by it. Were you, Michelle, surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised by it. I mean, takes a lot since COVID to get me to go to the movie theater, and so I mean, I like the movie theater, but it's just been a change up since then. So it was kind of fun to go back, and it felt like the good old days a little bit, going to the movie and seeing a movie you hadn't seen. I'd seen the big ones, I'd seen Barbie lots of times. I saw
Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun. Yeah, you see all those big ones, but it was like nice to be like, hey, it's Tuesday night. Let's just go to the movie, and that was fun. But yeah, I was surprised. I really impressed by John, is it Krasinski? He did a great job directing, and then holding a place in the movie. I thought he did a great job with that. So
he wrote it too, didn't he?
Oh, and wrote it. You're right. Yeah. I was like, wow, very talented, and I happened to look online at just to see what people were saying, and on Reddit, the Reddit people were saying, they were like, he really started a franchise with this movie with Paramount, because apparently Paramount hasn't had any really kid genres that have taken off very well. And so they're like really impressed by it, and also just amazed that this movie, they were like shocked that it made so much money in the first quarter. So they were saying both Ryan Reynolds and John are like, they can do whatever they want now, kind of was what kind of what I got out of it, because it's a family show, right? It's a family show, and they just don't expect, they just can't get it through their heads that family shows really bring people to the theater, and people pay to go see them, like they really want the big time shows to be the blockbusters, but a lot of times it's those family shows that people actually go and pay their money for, because then everybody can go, right? It's just easy. So yeah.
And there were levels, right? Don't you feel like this movie had levels?
Yeah.
Did you go with any kids in the theater?
I think there was a few kids behind us. Yeah. But I could hear
giggling. Like I heard some giggling, and I was like, that made it for me.
Right. Yeah. But what was meaningful to you about that show? I'm excited to hear.
Okay. Well, the girl. So when I first saw her, the daughter, do you remember her name? I didn't write it down.
B is what they call her B.
Okay. I was like, she's a bad actress. Like when I first started watching her, because I'm like, she talked like an adult. She like had always had this like smile on her face. And then I think towards probably a little bit past halfway, I'm like, she's dissociated. And I don't know if they had her play that way, or if it was kind of an accident, like if she really is new to acting, I'm not sure.
Right.
But that's exactly to me what a dissociated person does.
Yeah.
Like
and what her character would do.
Yes.
How her character would show up. Yeah. So maybe she was an actually excellent actress. Yeah. I get what you're saying. You're right. You're very right. When we talk about that, let's explain that. Like, to me, I think, very rigid, maybe turn with your body instead of your neck, maybe looking straight forward, not very many blinks.
There wasn't a lot of movement in her eyes or expression in her eyes. Yeah.
Just very serious, very subdued. Yeah, that's a traumatized, dissociated person for sure. Yeah. Now that you say that really, you're right. You're totally right. That was it. And whether that was the point or not, it made the movie more meaningful, because if anybody that works with trauma, you're going to see that, you're going to recognize that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then towards the end of the movie, I don't know if I was changed because I realized what was going on
Right.
and I saw her differently. I mean,
Mhm.
but I think that there was a change in her, and that was a really beautiful thing to see, because sometimes kids are at the mercy of the events in their life and they don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And the adults are trying their
Yeah.
best,
Yes.
but we have got our own stuff too.
We've all, that's the thing about the movie, is we've all, she was traumatized, but she's in it, and all the adults had numbed off enough that they were functioning with a new reality. Do you know what I mean? In a way, and that's what I thought the movie, it just sparked imagination. To me, just the title "If" kind of tickles down my back, because that's just the epitome of imagination. What if? You know what I mean? If we could do this, what would happen? If that happened, if for good or for bad, like that only can happen in imagination, the word if, right? And in that show, they're trying to, remind us that as adults, we had all this imagination in our childhood that was helpful, that was supportive, that was fun, that was just, open up all the different possibilities, everything that was important to us was there in our imaginations. And we had this witness that said, yes, you can do it, and
Yeah.
I thought that was magical. I really did.
That makes me like a little weepy thinking about, my younger self feeling like those possibilities, and it wasn't, no one
Mhm.
told me no,
Right. Right.
that's
I
really
know.
cool.
I think that maybe that's something I mean, I feel like that's what the movie invited us to do, is to start to say, hey, let's back up a bit, let's invite that childlike part, into our lives as adults. There was something to learn from those childlike parts and the imagination we had,
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about you, but I mean, I would play for hours, pretending, right? Pretending was how you
Oh, yeah.
played as a kid. And now, we pretend in a different way, I think. I think we pretend to be enough, or we pretend to be, good, or to be
Oh,
this or
wow.
that, right? And
Yeah.
what if
Mhm.
we asked ourselves, what if we asked ourselves, maybe we could actually be that, and we could actually hold the space for ourselves for that, instead of just, or I guess for our dreams, I should say, that maybe there's a possibility, what if? I just thought that was, um, and I even loved how it was just if, because it's like, if this, then what? If this,
Yeah.
then what, is a question we can ask ourselves over and over again. And who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But as far as like manifesting goes, that's how you do it, right? It's like the what if happens, and you get this imagination to be so securely able to hold it that then it becomes the reality. It all begins in the imagination.
You're right. You're right. Like that kind of imaginary friend idea, or the if, is real to you
Hmm.
in a moment. It's like it's there. Isn't that what they talk about manifesting? Like
Hmm.
you believe it's already happened and it's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, you feel it in your body. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, that's the way it is. It's just so true, And that's why I thought it was significant that the movie too, it was capital I and capital F, that the if it's just really important, like it's just capitalized if.
Yeah.
I wondered, I wish, if we could, we'll do this in July, right? We're going to talk about some people we'd like to interview, but here I'm going to, if I could interview John, I'd really like to know, tell me more about that title, because I feel like it's very meaningful. I don't think it just was come to easily, or
Well, it's a
just,
double entendre, right? Because it's the imaginary friend. So
oh,
I,
right, right. You're right. You're right.
and it's the if,
If, yes.
the questioning. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't you think, okay, this is going to be a little bit of spoiler, but like, you know, the dancer, when the grandma, and it's like the dancer
Oh,
still believed in her ability to be this beautiful dancer, and here she's a grandma. Like that was, and I don't know, in that moment, it was just one of those few minutes where music was only playing, as you watched her dance. But I feel like in that moment it was, what if you could still dance, you know? What if? And she took it and said, let's try it. You know, she was willing to be a little vulnerable to it and to go for it. And she enjoyed it. Like it wasn't about the audience, right? It wasn't about having an audience. It was, you know, being a dancer. She was a dancer, you know. The audience isn't the precursor for that title, right? So
Right.
yeah, so that movie, I hope that it gets some more. I hope it becomes even better and better as people, you know, begin to see the depth of things. I think, you know, when during COVID, John and his wife Emily, you know, did you ever watch their Good News, some
Oh
Good
yeah,
News
some
or
good
whatever?
news.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's just, you know, to me, when I would watch that, I could tell that this makes me a little emotional. Like I could tell that they cared, you know, that they wanted to do more than just entertain. They wanted to, you know, like, because when people feel better, they do better, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
big invitation for people to be entertained, not just to waste their time, but to, like, you know, enlighten them to dare to take that feeling of goodness and spread it out a little bit, you know, like it's always this unsaid invitation when you go to the movies, right? Especially those good movies. And some of the ones we're going to talk about, all of them did that for me, you know,
Yes.
did that for me. So it was exciting to see it, and I hope more people see it. It's still in theaters right now as of, you know, the beginning of June. It is still in theaters, so there's still time to go see If. Um,
I wanted to ask you, did you have an imaginary friend?
Not that I had like a name for. No, I
I didn't
didn't. I
either.
didn't.
I'm kind of sad. I was
Right?
maybe I didn't. I just forgot. I hope, but
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it made me watching that show, it made me want to, I wish I would have encouraged my kids, you know, why don't you play pretend and with these people or whatever? And really, what do you think they would sound like? What do you think they would say, you know, and really help them to develop that? Because I think, you know, for me, I'll see if it's the same for you. I mean, for a kid to have an imaginary friend was like terrifying, you know, like a little bit like,
it's like a monster or
oh,
what?
or just that they were kind of crazy, right? I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know, right? Like it was
Yeah.
like, you know, like she has an imaginary friend. You know, you could see some movies where they were like, "Hi, friend, come in," and they would kind of make it normalized. But I felt like in real life, this is telling. I don't get from your facial expression that you had the same response. So I'm wondering if I did have imaginary friends, and I learned pretty quickly not to tell anybody about them.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I mean, that feels deep in me. It's like, you know, that's weird. If you have an imaginary friend that you can see and talk to, like that's scary, or that's weird, or you know, don't let anybody know, that kind of thing. So that's interesting. I can tell you might not have had that same thought. So there we know a little bit more about me and my life. That was real for me. So, you know,
Yeah.
because I did have, you know, I think that just plays to, you know, that some of those gifts I had when I was a kid and didn't, you know, then push them away, I think, really. So because that's what I always thought of when I thought of imaginary friends was they're seeing spirits, you know, they're seeing loved
Oh,
ones.
because
That's
everything as a kid is real.
right, right.
Everything's real. Like
Yeah.
that's why when I taught preschool, we tell parents like, be careful what you show them because everything that they see is real to them.
Right.
And
Right.
so for you, yeah, there wasn't that separation between real and pretend yet. I don't know when that comes. I think it's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 when you start
Hmm.
to differentiate. But
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty far, actually.
yeah.
That's a lot of time, actually. But I wanted to ask you the question that came to me when it came to, you know, at the end of that show, and you just kind of keep it on the back of your mind and you start to say, you start to go like, oh yeah, there and there, and you start to kind of replay it a little bit. To me, the question I wanted to pose was, you know, what else have we forgotten from childhood, right? And when we talk about that, there's both good and bad, right? As a trauma person, I deal very much with those things in the past that we've forgotten that are trauma, you know, that are not good or that we keep hiding in the back. But I thought this movie was, it was just that, like I say, invitation to say, what else are we missing? What are those moments that were magical in our childhood? Let's think about those for a little bit. I remember the other day we were Marco Poloing and you showed me your lilac bush. And I remember every spring in the backyard, a big lilac bush, and taking some and putting them in my house. It was just a marker of summer showing up. I love that smell. It sends sensations through my body that are much more than just the smell. That smells good, right? Like it's those deep, meaningful little moments of childhood. I remember going to my little 4-H and learning to cook and wanting to make things for my brothers and sisters, and so proud when they said, that's good. I was so proud of myself when they were like, or when they would say, hey, will you make us some of those brownies you would make? Because I was the youngest, so I had all these adults, and I was so everybody was much older than I was when I was young. So when I could influence an adult, that was really magical to me. So sometimes if it was lip syncing in front of their friends or cooking them something, that was always something that was exciting to me. And so I think to myself, those are some things, maybe I want to think about some of those memories and bring some of those into my present life. Maybe I'm going to go get some lilacs, maybe I'm going to cook a batch of that. I still have that dirty old gnarly cookbook I had in 4-H. Maybe I'll pull that out and make some brownies and just let those sensations come up that are deeper and stronger than just the taste, smell, touch, right? So.
Yeah. As you say that, the things that kind of come to my mind are, I remember experimenting with fashion, and not that it was like high fashion or anything like that, but finally choosing for myself what I get to wear. Like that was really exciting. Like, for example, my mom wouldn't let me wear mini skirts. And so I had this jean skirt and I really wanted it short. So I hemmed it with earrings.
Yes.
So I just remember like I had to be really careful how I sat, because otherwise I'd be poked in the leg. But hey, that was experimenting with fashion and just feeling a little more free. And I think it was about that same time that I had seen Grease, and I was obsessed with like the makeover of Sandy at the end.
Yes.
I just like wanted to be that, like, and so pink foam rollers were like my gateway, I guess.
Yes.
And I'd sleep with them in, so my hair is just straight, doesn't do anything curly. So I'd be so afraid of losing the curl. So I would just like very carefully unwrap them and just like these weird curls. And I remember this boy saying like, Shalene, did you stick your finger in an electric socket? And I was just like, I thought he was flirting with me, and I would be like, oh, you're so funny. Like, you probably really funny.
But isn't that where we want to get back to? Like, I don't care what the reality is. If my imagination says, ooh, he's flirting with me, that's better for me, right? And yet now I feel like it's almost the flip. They're like, well, it's almost like the first thing that comes to our mind is like, why? What do you want? You know what I mean? And like, there's a lot.
Or I'm bad, you told me. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot between that moment of freedom as a child and where we are now. And that's just what I think this movie it's just to stop for a little minute, go beyond the movie, watch the movie, and then go into your own remembrance, your own imagination, and remember those moments, because they bring you joy. They do. You see in your own little self how amazing you were, like, because you were walking around with this and you thought it was great. You're like,
oh my gosh, I thought it was so cute.
Right. And what if we did that as adults? I don't think the world would end.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
Love it.
Yeah, go watch it.
When most people are asked what they want, they will answer, I want to be happy. But happy takes practice. And that's what the Wholeness Library is all about. So check it out free at thewholenessnetwork.com.